Councilwoman, you might want to sit over here though, because they're gonna do a presentation on the screen that you might want to sit. Yeah, come on.
That's fine.
Have a seat. These chairs are small for me, but they're like really small for you. Yeah. Yeah, sit away. Thanksgiving. Really, right? All right. The folding chairs out. How are you? All right, let me know when you're ready to roll. Good afternoon / evening, everybody. This is today is Monday, May 6th, 2024, and this is a meeting of the Recreation Advisory Board. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Chairman Anthony Simon,
Present.
Vice Chair Miguel Sanchez,
Present.
Councilwoman Ana Vargas, Gina Lafayette is absent.
She's here. Oh, is she here? Yeah, she just pulled up. Okay. But she'll be in a second.
So for right now,
Yeah.
she's absent.
Kenneth Phillips is absent. We have 3 present, 2 absent. We have a quorum.
Excellent. I'm sure they'll direct her in. They're aware that's not.
Yes, it was.
Okay, great. Well, thank you everybody for coming once again. Excited to be here at the Kennedy Rec Center tonight, which is my neighborhood rec center, and we spent some time in here with Josh and the great team here, and thankful for all that they do. In sort of in our mission to kind of hold these meetings at different rec centers across the city. This is the 3rd one that we've had at, and I think what we tried to display at every turn is the different types of rec centers that we've had, right? So we've had, we've done it at West End, where it's a standalone recreation center. We have done, this is an example of the type of rec center that's actually attached to a school. So we'll hear more from Josh about the way that generally works. And then we've also done the hybrid model last time at Jocelyn Rec Center, which is a school, but then a sort of very separate sort of recreation facility attached to it. So this is we will recognize that Jen Lafayette has just joined us.
Oh, no.
Great. And so Jenna, we were just talking about, this is the 3rd example of the different types of rec centers. This one is really attached to a school, whereas Jocelyn was kind of like a hybrid of the both. So now this will give us a good, I think, sort of feel for the 3 different types of rec centers that are out there. We have a long agenda tonight, a pretty packed agenda, lots of great stuff to talk about. So I don't want to take up too much time. But I am going to turn it over to Josh Otagbella, who is the director here. I will say personally, firsthand, I've seen the amazing work that they've done here. My son Anthony plays basketball here, so during the winter time, we are here quite a bit. And there's a lot more that goes on in this rec center. So we are thankful to you and your team, and Derek is here too. I'll recognize Derek Wise as the deputy director of the center here. So we're lucky to have them in our neighborhood and in our city. Especially, I will say that Kennedy won a championship this year with our 13 U's, right? 12 U's. So that was an exciting accomplishment. We're expecting a banner sometime soon, right?
Is there?
All right, good.
Just ready to put it up.
So, but anyway, thank you for all you're doing. Thank you for all that your team does. What we've been doing, Josh, is, we started meeting as a board in November and we've been going around. We started doing the meetings at City Hall, but then we thought it would be especially important to go out to the rec centers themselves, hear from the directors, hear from the teams about the work that's being done in your individual rec center. So the floor is yours for about 5 to 10 minutes or so. We appreciate you taking the time and thanks for hosting us and thank you for all you guys do.
We have the PowerPoint presentation.
Yeah, I didn't know if there was, there's an issue in mind. Oh, there it is, all right.
Well, like I said, let me give a brief about myself. Josh Olabella, born and raised in Providence. Actually, a neighborhood guy, as well as Derek Wise. We live right in the neighborhood. I live right behind Alumni Hall, so you come here, I'll be here within 5 minutes. So, I just enjoy working for the rec. This is what I really wanted to do. I was a rec kid growing up, so I've always seen the older staff looking up to them. So me stepping into this role it was easy for me because I already had examples before. About Kennedy. Before, most of you already saw the tour, but we're only operating out of 2 units. This classroom, right now, we're currently not operating out of it. We only really use it in the summer. Fully in the summer. Before I got here, before directors would switch, they were using this room, part-time art teacher, so they had full access to this room. Now we don't have any access to this room. So everything that we do and operate is out of the zone. That's where everything is done. After school program, morning program, everything like that. So a typical day at Kennedy would be start off in the morning program, starts off at 7 o'clock in the morning. So there are parents that drop off their kids at 7 in the morning. It's a huge help for the community. Mind you, school starts at 9. Parents are dropping them off at 7. Starts at 7. Most kids start arriving between 7 and 8 o'clock. So kids are here, morning program, school, then our after school program. So we have kids down here all day. We provide meals for them, homework help, and all types of activities in our after school program. In the morning program, we do feed them breakfast, we give them breakfast. We have 2 staff on duty, 18+ that take care of everything in the morning. Those Shayla and Samantha Burney, very huge help. They've worked here before I came director. They were working on this, Mike Holland. I filled in, they decided they wanted to stay, showed me the ropes, huge help. After school program, like I said, we have meals, we have programs. We have trip as well. Going into sports, as Tony was saying, we have our basketball program doing very well. This year, most recs have 3 age groups, 10U, 12U, and 14U. We've had 2 teams for 10 years because the numbers just grew for us, which is solid. Comic book club is held inside here. We're probably the only rec that does it. We have a good group roundtable that come in, do reading, they do drawing with them, all comic book stuff. The good thing about it is not just boys, girls are involved with it too. So every time they leave, every time they come and meet, when they leave, they'll leave a comic book or a book. Basketball skills and drills, that's huge. It was a big demand for it, especially after the season. I really wasn't gonna do it, but a lot of parents wanted, after the season was over, what's next? Is anything going on? So we started doing the skills and drills. Computer club, that's something that's been on pause only because we need to get our updated computers. We're doing more things with our computers. In-house athletic leagues, we had 3. We're a host of the bidding league, so before everybody goes out to their own neighborhood recs, this is where they stop their basketball league. We have numerous teams, volunteer coaches, we have age groups 5 and 6, and 7 and 8. So it's 2 divisions. So this is where we lower the rims. The kids get a foundation of the game. And then we have hosts at our after school program. We have our flag football kids. That's some Kennedy graphics, which is numbers as far as, people who's coming in, guests who's coming in and out, so it fluctuates up and down. Questions?
How many kids a day come through the doors here?
For our morning program, we have between 30-35. After school program, we're up to 60. And between 30, we'll have like 15, 20, 25, 30 people after school, around 6, after 6. So yeah, we generate under 100 people a day.
Talk us through the dynamics of being a rec center that's actually like as attached to the school as you guys are, Josh. How does he? It's warm there.
It's warm.
For those people that are listening at home, you know, we were in one of those rooms that have like zero air conditioning and the windows aren't really open, but. So you're attached to a school here. So talk us about how like the maintenance and whatnot works and stuff like.
So maintenance, they work for after school, they do their cleanup in the after school. At night, we're really the ones that really clean the gym up. If there's a vacation, they may clean the floor.
Mhm.
Other than that, that's what all maintenance really does. We're the ones that really touch up the gym.
And if there are building needs, like you mentioned, we went on tour, and you mentioned like the basketball hoop,
Right, so we
everything.
just put in that order for that, still waiting on that.
Mhm. Yeah.
I had a question around the computer. Is there a need from the kids for homework help with computers? And is there not the,
It would help.
yeah,
It's not like they really ask for it. But sometimes the school gives them computers, so you see a lot of kids with computers using it, but us having our own would help as well.
would you have the space for them if you only have the, they'd have to be in here?
We would have to.
It would be the summer only really access.
Tell us more about the video league. So this is, yeah, I think this is another area, by the way, for growth that we should look at. As Josh was mentioning, the video league is, you know, kids, this is their first experience with basketball in the city. This is the rec center that everybody across the city comes from. But tell us your experience with it and how.
I love it. My kids been through it. Especially for me being a basketball guy, it's the foundation. You get to introduce the kids to the game of basketball. Before the season starts, I do a skills and drills with the younger kids, just so when they get into the season, they feel comfortable going into the season. So it's basically just a lot of teaching how to play the game going up and down. It's a little loose. We don't call too many calls, but we explain to the kids what's going on, why this was called, so they get a better feeling for the game.
And how did, this is the first year, obviously, we did online registration.
Right.
How did that work out this year?
That was good. That actually helped out, made it easier. For people, thank you. It made it easier for people to actually register where they didn't have to come in.
Yeah.
It made it easier for me to be able to see who's registered and I can put them in where they need to be.
Yeah.
It made a big difference.
Yeah. And then I know I think this recreation center is a good example, especially with the biddy league and how you use and recruit volunteers. You talk about that a little bit. We are talking about how to expand volunteer opportunities across the rec department, to help you guys out.
Volunteer, we could use more volunteers for coaching. That was maybe the only hard part of putting the league together, was finding volunteers. Most of them would be parents involved with their kids playing, but those were the only volunteers that I could really get.
So, I'm sorry.
Did you have any involvement with Providence College being so close to here and volunteers through them in any
No.
capacity?
No.
Off of big one of that question, that's probably sort of for the director, is PC actively involved in any rec center? I mean, I know they like definitely help out at certain events and stuff, but.
Yeah, they've been helping out at events. They provide access to facilities and we had an event with a huge event that was supposed to happen 2 weeks ago that didn't get to happen because of the weather. So we collaborated on a few events. We are actually actively, so I have a staff that's reaching out to every college and university in the area and having that conversation again. Because we're in a better position to actually accept the resources than we were before. A great example is like the volunteers for the biddy league. When we were starting that, we didn't have the same mechanism that we do now. For the soccer league, we probably have 20 to 25 volunteers every week. We went with a different approach, learning from that example. So Yes, we are gonna increase our, collaboration and demand from, I would actually say demands
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
the colleges and universities. So, my two athletic coordinators, assistant athletic coordinator, Shannon Perry, and we just hired a new assistant athletic coordinator, Christina Battistini, to be able to do exactly that. So they're literally focusing on that and starting to get the meeting. So our first one based on that is with Coach Bath. That's coming up in the first week of June.
Yeah, Director Grace and I had a call a couple of months back at this point with PC. So I think everybody's familiar with the pilot agreements that were negotiated with the higher education institutions. One of the things, we talked about this before, that they are to do is to match their dollar amount, but also in kind things like volunteerism and whatnot with the local communities. And we actually, and I've talked to the administration about this too, but I think obviously the rec department is one of those areas that would make all the sense in the world. So, yeah, I know Steven's working hard to get that stuff lined up, but sort of a natural synergy and partnership there.
Do you know if you're working with the Feinstein School of Public Service at BC?
No, we're working directly with the athletic department right now, and hoping to expand that. So we're working directly with Steve Marino, right?
Yep.
Morano, and at Brown University, we're working with Victoria Flowers and their community engagement team. We're also going to be working with Julie Whitehead, who is the assistant dean of everything. Her title is very long. It's like DIB, extended learning, some type of program. So we're going to be working with her. Johnson Wales, I haven't gotten to yet. We're waiting for a response there. And we reached out to the athletic director first at Rick to be able to expand that relationship. So those are the ones that we have active requests at.
Yeah, this is definitely one of those rec centers where there's Brown College, there's PC, sort of within a 1 mile radius of it, so.
Yeah. I can help with intros into the Feinstein School of Public Service. I mean, they're the only, I think they were the original, the only major in the entire country that had a public service major, right? And when I went to PC, I did an active after-school tutoring volunteer program through Feinstein. And I don't know how active it still is, but being walking distance to the school, I would think that if there's looking for after school help,
We've had,
yeah,
volunteer tutors before come through.
Yeah, I think
that was last.
try to formalize that.
Yeah, we've had it last year. This time around, they haven't come around. But last year we did have volunteer students from DC.
So Director, 2 more points, I think before we move on, that I'd be interested in hearing more about. One is, we'll be talking about this tonight, but if there are any senior programming you do at all, I mean, obviously it's very much centered around children. And then the other one that we've been noticing, really needs more attention citywide. And I know Director Grace and the entire department is working on this, but girls programming in particular, can you talk about those two?
For me, I was hoping I want to increase girls' program, especially with girls basketball. We have our girls' club. Like my girls' club, where I say our staff, our female staff, whole staff, including with other recs. But here we have our girls' club. They just do little girls things, interact with each other. That's the only main focus we have. That's not sports related with girls, just the girls. For me, girl wise, I'm looking to increase my girls' sports. This year being my first time coaching girls basketball, I can see where things are missing because they don't get the same thing as the boys. So that's what I'm noticing. So for me, I'm looking to try to increase my girls. That's why I started just girls only for our skills and drill. So I see the numbers increase with that. So I'm feeling confident that next year we should have a 10U or 12U, 13U girls.
That's great. The other thing we talk about regularly is expansion of programming. Obviously, basketball has been a thing in the city for forever. It's the one thing that I think we've done sort of, on a broad scale. We started soccer this season, but in your mind, when the fall comes up, or if there's one area where you could expand your programming here, what would you want to do?
Non-related sports, more stuff for like we have our programs like garden club. We're gonna do things more like that, but I want to do the garden club year round because our girls actually enjoy it. Our kids actually enjoy doing the garden club. So when we do that, it's good. But this time around we haven't gotten around to it. But looking to expand that. More adult stuff, but because we only have so much space.
Yeah.
there's so much, there's limited ideas that we can do. So if we want to do something in the evening, we'd have to ask for permission to use this classroom. If you want to do something within the classroom. So like I said, with so much space, we can only do so much. But, that's the biggest thing that we need. If anything,
That was my
nothing physical,
Yeah.
space.
Yeah.
That's what we need. Forget about fixing the rim, just give us more space.
Well, the thing about that we need to keep an eye, I think, about this particular rec center, is that this building is due for some massive overhauls and upgrades. I think that they'll probably move the entire school out to Windmill School at some point for a massive renovation of the building, which is being talked about. So I think for our purposes, obviously that is a need here. And so as they're building out and spending money to make this building new or however they're gonna design it, we ought to talk about that. If this is gonna continue to service as a rec center for the community and for the neighborhood, when the state is matching 90 cents on the dollar, what else can we be doing to make sure that we add on to the rec opportunities here, and that there's space that, even though it might be used at certain points during the day, how do you allow the community to come in to use it after hours? And that should be in the design of the building as well.
Because the kids that do come through here are neighborhood kids.
Yeah,
They really are. They're around the corner, up the street, those are the type of kids that are really.
yeah, no, definitely. And I think, it's, I think this is slated for like within 5 years or something like that, they're getting to Kennedy. So, something we should keep talking about.
Rental, if anyone's looking to rent a space, this is the space that. We really don't have all the big organizations come through the rental space because we're only so small, but most people come through just renting for birthday parties. And little gatherings, just about it.
Any other questions for?
This is kind of a general to maybe director too. Does the public property maintenance come here?
So because that is only a gym, there's not a lot that's in their realm of responsibility outside of that. There is a weird agreement on like the outside of the building where ABM, which is a new contractor for the city, like they have one side of the building and this side of the building, but we're actively addressing that. I meet with PPSD and operations about that, so that'll be fixed in the near future. In terms of what happens in the gym, we do handle things like the basketball hoop we can control and some of the supplies that are in there. So we're actually, you didn't know this, but we're actually gonna be putting an order for you for some new stuff. So like the TV, right, something like that, so.
See, I was.
We just had to wait for the funding to become.
And the basketball net?
Yeah, so like we actually have some things that we have to run by you, but we do take care of things like that. The floor, we don't like do like in terms of if they're gonna put in a new floor, like the wall, so it's very vague sometimes on like who's responsible for what. The good thing, as opposed to like last year, if we do need to, fix something, we can have a really good conversation with PPSD and see who's, realm of responsibility is in and who has the more efficient way to get it done. So, public property, yes, does handle some things for the facility, but since it's only a gym, not as much of another place.
The last thing I want to say, I think it's awesome that you guys have a morning program. I don't think that's come up before. I guess my next question would be, is there any other rec center that
Exactly.
is?
Is that funded by the school department or is that funded as recreation employees?
Recreation. So the interesting thing about the conversation, like even Josh had to talk about his after school program. There's not really like a official program between the two entities, so PPSD and rec. We offer it and kids come to it and they sign up for it. But to a point that was brought up before with the, laptops and like, do they do tutoring? I'm actually met with PPSD today to talk about that, specifically our connected buildings and having an official after school program where you're combining like so for here, high intensity learning and then the athletics as kind of a carrot to participate in it. And then in middle schools, the ones that are close, like the high dosage learning and self-paced learning opportunities to help with ride pass and stuff like that. So those are conversations that we're having to be able to do that in official capacity because it's not really together. It's the rec does it, PPSD kids come to it and then go to their school because it's in the same building.
Yeah, it seems like there's a demand for it, obviously.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, listen, Director, thank you again for all you do. We appreciate you.
Appreciate y'all for listening.
And
Thanks, Josh.
we're here to, we tell all the directors, we're here to advocate for you guys. That's the purpose of this board. We fully believe that you guys deserve the resources that you should deserve. And, Director Grace is doing a fantastic job of making sure he advocates for all of you guys. And so we want to continue that work too. And we appreciate all you do about kids on there. Thank you.
Thank you. Chairman, I think, Councilwoman.
Oh, Councilman.
Sorry for comment. When my kids coming to doing, their summer program, so now I understand why I have all the rule in, and give it the sticker, the behavior. So now I understand because we don't have enough space, we have a lot of kids over here, and then, since you have any behavior, you lose your seat. So, and my kids, oh, mama, I don't wanna lose my kid, my seat because.
In the summer program.
In the summer program, so that's
Summer course.
what I understand now, because we don't have enough space for all that kids keep coming. And in the morning for a lot of energy and then say, oh, what's going on? Ma, I don't want to lose the seat.
Yeah.
I want, good behavior, so that's why I'm gonna.
Summertime, we only hold 60 kids, 60 to
Mhm.
65
Yeah, in the gym.
for the summer.
Director, thank you again.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Yeah, thank
Thank you. All right, so, that was a great presentation. We appreciate that. So the rest of the agenda, we do have a lot to get through. So we have, Director Robio, who is here with us today. We're talking about senior programming, which is something that's come up quite often with us. We have the mayor has introduced his budget. This copy is that in here. So we have a discussion around that. And then I think a brief discussion around Eat, Play, Learn, PVD. I know that Director Grace has, to leave us at some point. So let's try and get through as much of this as we can. Don't need to rush through anything. I think we got plenty of time, but I think we can get there. And let's start with Director Robio. So Director Robio and Director Grace, I know have been talking quite a bit. Director Robio, thanks for joining us. It's we started meeting as a board, as I told you, in November. For the board hadn't met in a really long time. And one of the areas that we have been really talking about is the broad spectrum of programming. So oftentimes people think about recreation and it's sports or just children, but we have been talking a lot about what's available across the spectrum. So for adults, for senior citizens. And so the purpose of inviting you here today was for us to just get a better understanding of what the city does offer currently, what the potential opportunities might be to expand programming on that moving forward, and really just learn more about your department and the conversations that you and Director Grace have been having potentially to expand and how we can create more recreation opportunities for senior citizens in our city. So thank you for coming.
Thanks. It'll be a short 45-minute presentation.
Great, it's nice and cool.
Thank you for inviting me here. And yes, we've had some great conversations over the years. Recreation, senior services was actually in the rec department when I first started. The employees lived at the rec center and I lived at City Hall. And it was a blue bus. We had the big blue bus that some of you are familiar with. And we had some entertainment. So we had a piano player and a singer. And they also worked at the rec department and they worked at one of the centers. So.
And I don't mean to date you, but how long ago was that?
18 years ago.
18 years.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was great. Senior high rises would call the piano player, they would book everything, the bus driver booked his things, everything went really well until things changed. And so during the Cicilline administration, they brought in senior services into City Hall. And basically our charge was to help seniors navigate city services. We don't provide direct service to seniors, but over the years, we have grown a lot of programs. So some of the things we do now is we provide transportation. We have about 50 high rises and there's like 4 senior centers, but there's like 8 locations that do senior programming. Like, for example, the Jewish Community Center is not a senior center, but they have a full-on senior program embedded in their community center. So we do transportation. We will take you shopping. We will take you to the movies. The only place we don't go is the casino. We'll take you in 1 hour radius, no casino. That's been a big issue. We provide over the years, we started providing exercise. So right now we're doing Tai Chi in a couple of locations. We've done Zumba, we've done chair exercises. A former rec director who was like a silver sneakers teacher, he would go to some of the senior centers. Can't think of his name right now, but I know he's worked here for a very long time, and retired years ago. So we do try to provide them with things that they would benefit from, exercise, nutrition. We worked with Farm Fresh. We had a contract with them where they would go in and help seniors learn how to shop for one or two and prepare foods and make things taste well.
And that's at the high rises?
That's at the high rises or senior centers, depending on where, we schedule them. We are now in the middle of making Providence an age-friendly city, which is where kids from 8 to 80 can play in the same space and learn in the same space. So that's something that we've been working on over the last couple of years. We provide Farm Fresh. This year, they're giving out little cards. We used to give out vouchers, and adults over 55 could come in and get a voucher, then they can go to the farmer's market and use it. Now they have a $50 card that you can come in as long as you qualify. We provide those. We sit on different groups. We have a wellness team that we work with Walgreens and Neighborhood Health and Healthy Communities. And we go out to all the different locations and do presentations on like healthy lifestyles. And we don't own the senior centers, but we work really closely
Could
with
you
them.
actually explain that relationship for us? Because just how it works with like.
So we own some of the buildings.
Yeah.
We own Da Vinci Center building, we own the Lillian Feinstein Senior Center, but we don't run them. They have their own boards of directors and groups that govern what they do. So if they get money from us, it's either from the community block grants or Dexter donation, or through my department. We have sponsorships, so we do a major event every year, which is Mayor's Day in the city. We have about 15 buses that we bus in people from all over the city for a day full of resources and lunch and entertainment and photo booth. It's a big party for them. They get to see people that they haven't seen from around the city. And I just have to call you out for 1 second. We used to have Mayor's Day in the park until it was 95 degrees one day when we had to get people in and out. And you worked very closely with one of my groups and we had somebody pass out. It was so hot, Anna, boom, get it, put the thing under their nose, up, and in like 20 seconds. And I was just thanking you for that one. But anyway, you played a very big part in those early Mayor's Day in the cities, in the park. But anyway, we grew out of that space. We had about 450 seniors last August, and we just can't do it there anymore. So this year it's August 17th at the Rhode Island Convention Center, and we'd love to have you come and see what it's all about. So what else? Yeah, I don't know if you have.
No, well, I just going back to the relationship with the
Yeah.
senior center. So how many are there throughout the city?
So there's like 5. There's Lillian Feinstein, Da Vinci, Higher Ground. I know I do this all the time. St. Martin de Porres. So those are the ones that are like senior only. Then you have Federal Hill House, which is a program embedded in their center, the Jewish Community Center. Hamilton House. Hamilton House is, I would say, for a person, they're not only Providence residents, you have to pay to join. They do a lot of traveling, museum trips. I mean, and we help them as well. We provide them with transportation as well. So, but they all run their own programs. They all have their own directors, they have their own boards, and they apply for funding.
And so the city owns the building, and do they rent it from the city, or is
Yeah,
it
for
just
like $1,
and
like
the
one
city
of those
pays,
kind of
the
things.
city pays all the utilities and whatnot for the building?
That I don't know if they pay the utilities or not, but I know when it has been major renovations, the city has to come in and pay. For
Okay,
sure.
all right. And in terms of access to the building, is it
Mhm.
only for the organization and that's it? Like,
Yeah, we don't
have
have
it opened up
access.
to the community?
No. They will, they have done that. Things changed after COVID for every
Yeah.
senior situation. But, we have asked them, they do like income tax stuff, so sometimes they might be open a little bit later doing that, but then it's always, well, we have to get maintenance and we have to, you know, have somebody, we have to pay somebody to lock the door. And so a lot of our stuff happens during the day anyway, so
Right.
I mean, they're not really going out much at night unless we're picking them up.
Yeah, yeah. And are they meal sites as well? The senior
So
do they
there
get
are,
served
not all of
lunch?
them, there are meal sites that aren't senior centers, so Fox Point Manor, for example, on Wickeden Street. There used to be a senior center in the boys club, that closed, and now the whole meal program moved across the street.
Okay,
So she does programming there and she'll invite people in, but it's not like advertise it throughout the
Yeah.
city, she only wants kind of like the neighborhood.
so you mentioned like the exercise classes and whatnot, is that programmed widely across the city, or those happen in the senior centers, or what's the? where
So
does that
it's
happen?
wherever we can get people to agree and we can get people to show up. So when right now, our most successful is at the adult day centers. So Renaissance Adult Day, we'll get, and the folks that attend Renaissance Adult Day, they live in the high rises. So it's the same people, we just have a larger group. And usually there could be 100 people in that room, 100 seniors. So, you know, we'll do an exercise class and we'll get 30 people to participate. Or we go to one high rise and we may get 8 to come down, or one senior center and we may get 10. So it just seems like whenever we go into these adult day centers, we get a large participation because they're there. They don't have to really go far.
And so who are our major partnerships with? And like, when it comes to senior sort of programming, recreation type of.
Walgreens, Neighborhood Health.
Yeah.
Blue Cross. Those are our top 3.
And they come in and fund the programming, so they'll pay for like a Zumba instructor to come in?
No, the city is paying for, we have a line for exercise, but what they do is they sponsor our Mayor's Day in the city. And any funds that are left over from that kind of go into a fund, a donation fund, which then we can use for anything we want to do. So, I mean, not anything, but most of these.
Yeah,
So if somebody wants, like request something, like we have a high rise and their tables are awful. And they wanna do some big Father's Day event, so they're looking to buy 3 tables, so we funded them. Like, I think they were $60 a piece from Job Lot, they wanted 3 6-foot tables.
yeah,
So we do things like that with the money that's left over. We'll, on another side note, I'm also part of the Rhode Island Minority Elder Task Force, and we give out emergency grants, because I was thinking about giving money to people, just putting this out for information. We give out emergency grants to seniors up to $400. You just have to call me, it goes through me, it's a very simple application, and within a day or 2, we could potentially get somebody their oil delivered, a Walmart gift card, Stop and Shop, whatever it is. So I just wanted to put that out there
Yeah.
because that is important to help people with.
so, yeah, there's a lot of stuff going through your department, more so than it relates to just recreation, obviously, so Director Grace, I mean, as you think about kind of like senior, like recreation opportunities, what are you thinking about for like the long term and how you do some of those programs?
So I guess the first thing to recognize is that we do have facilities and we could utilize them more to create some of those opportunities outside of the center, for, our age-friendly community. I think that and Sue and I have talked about what that collaboration looks like. That intergenerational programming and what it looks like to be able to interact with children and seniors in the same space looks like it's something that I want to really provide to our recreation centers. We talked about an example where we have you guys met her, Miss D over at West End.
Mhm.
And when you guys walked into that place, like the feel that you had, and I told this joke, I was surprised I didn't walk away with like a Werther's like caramel and $1 in my pocket, right? Like rolled up, because that was the type of feel you get when you go in. And I think that's something that's, can be duplicated in other centers. So we kind of talked about like, how can we do that in official capacity? What funding is available to do that, to even pay folks to be able, seniors to be
Senior
able to do that, and where that comes from. So, there's a number of opportunities to be able to do that. The lowest hanging fruit is the fact that we do have spaces that can be utilized. We have, splash pads in the summer that are already utilized, but we can have, more direct programming. There's already times during the summer where they get used, but, more intention behind it. So, it's really something that, through that collaboration and support, we'll be able to, expand. But that would be the two ideas I was looking at immediately.
What do you see as the biggest needs in your department? If you wanted to, if we as a board decided, we should really focus as a city on expanding recreation opportunities for seniors, what are the types of things that you think you would need to do that?
I think we need transportation to get the people there. That is the biggest problem. But right now, the high rises try to create activity in their own space because it's easier to get the people there and they don't want to have to try to get them somewhere. So that, then there's another whole group of older adults that can drive. And if you say there's a free Zumba class at 5 o'clock on whatever, we may be able to advertise that where people are going to drive to it because they don't have to pay for it.
How do you advertise? How do you get the word out about your programming?
We do it through the high rises and the senior centers.
Got it.
We flyer everything.
Okay,
So anytime we have a wellness fair, it's in English and Spanish, and we send it out. We meet with the directors before, because we go for a wellness fair, we'll bring the mayor there, and, sometimes we can walk into a room and there's like 4 seniors, and there's 180 apartments, and, we've sent the flyers. That is a big part of the person, the resident coordinator, they have to play a big part in getting the activity, getting the people to the activity as well.
Yeah.
So, we go knocking on doors, we do everything we possibly can. I go and start ringing every single buzzer, and whoever's gonna answer, I'm like, come today, the mayor's here. So, I would love to do more. We did a wonderful bingo night. What we learned from that is, again, it was the transportation, because we did transport people that were close by, but it takes time. If you have a wheelchair, that's an additional 5 or 10 minutes to get up on the lift and get it back. And so other than the transportation part, the event was great. They loved it. And I think they would love to do more of that kind of stuff. I love the intergenerational, like the girls club, if we can get, I would love to bring some older adults into that. And I feel like, so Steve and I were just kind of in our own little silos, and now we're just starting to come together.
That's excellent to hear.
So it is good, and we did do one event together, which was really nice, and we're keeping the conversation open. So I'm happy to work with the department and excited to see what can happen.
Anybody else have any other questions for Director Rubio, Councilwoman?
No. Oh my God. Thank you for all you do.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm past a director for the elderly person for more, for long. And when I see the behavior for the people when we have the lunch, and when I work here, so I had to, decide who's coming, who's not coming, you remember?
Mhm.
And I had to the list and then bring it there.
You're also really good with smelling salts.
But it was good. For me, do you have any data and the specific of our work service? So we have the data, how many people need the service, and also we have a space and we can do that a certain time for example, play the domino or socialize that, because we have the volunteers, because some people don't want to go back to the creation, the center for the elderly person. Sometimes be greedy because you have something extra that you can do that. I would like to have any data for the work. For example, for my works, we have any data, how many elderly person can use that facilitator, because we don't want to open something and then nobody show up. So we want to like this, because I want.
You're talking about opening up a center?
Not a center, so the recreation and the money is closed, we don't use it. So, for example, here I use it, but in mine, it's not
Right,
using the money.
Right.
So for me, it's what is can have any data who can, use it that facilitator to pay the domino, socialize, and so bring us some,
So just whether or not, like, we can open the facilities during the day so that seniors can come in and do an activity in the
Yeah.
summer.
socialize. That's me.
Yeah,
Because I know I working before for the elderly person.
Well, that's how Elmwood Adult Day, that's how that started. The owner owned what did he have? Not a chiropractor, physical therapy
Yeah,
office.
physical therapy.
And his patients would come in and just sit there all day long, and then they would just start socializing in his lobby.
Mhm.
And then that grew into Elmwood Adult Day, 2 centers, and, you know, they easily get 100+ people a day into their
Every day.
facility.
100 people has to be there.
well, I think this is just the beginning of the conversation,
Mhm.
Director. We really wanted to have you in to learn more about how, senior programming happens in the city right now. And we're looking forward, I think, to having you guys back at a later time when you guys have more of an opportunity to collaborate with each other. Again, one of the major goals of this board is to really expand programming. And so we really want to do that again across the spectrum. So encourage you guys really to work closely with each other to do that as much as possible. And however we can advocate, for you guys to get the funding that you need or the space that you need, or whatever it is that you think that we can do to be helpful to give more opportunities to our seniors on a regular basis, I think we'd be happy to do. I think I speak on behalf of the board when they say that, but looking forward to continuing the conversation on it.
Yeah, I look forward to coming back and sharing some good news of programming.
And I will just say thank you for all that you do,
Oh,
Yeah.
you and your department.
yeah.
Thanks.
So we find with many of these departments under-resourced, understaffed, and
Yes.
8 million things to do, and so we know that you guys are working.
I was in the middle of a call center. Yeah, it gets a little rough, but we're doing it.
Great.
Mr. Chair, I failed to I neglected to have us enter the presentation from the rec center director into the
Okay.
record. If we could just.
Yeah, I'll entertain a motion to enter as exhibit A, the presentation from Director Adegala.
So moved.
Second.
Second by Councilman Vargas. All in favor? All right, great.
Thank you. I'm gonna head out, but thank you very much.
Awesome.
Appreciate it.
Third item is review of the Department of Recreation budget, and I will entertain a motion to enter as exhibit B. The packet on the budget, both the recreation department and the seasonal staff budget that was prepared by the city clerk's office for us. So I'll entertain a motion to enter this as exhibit B.
So moved.
Second.
Second by Councilman Vargas, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right. So, the mayor introduced the budget and we're excited, to see it, have a chance to take a look at it. We've obviously, one of the things that we're tasked with as a board is to advise on the budget. Actually, and before I do that, I just wanted to acknowledge Councilwoman Peterson, who is here. Councilwoman Peterson.
Hey, how are you?
Happy that you can join us tonight. Thank you and your ward over here. Yeah. So, I'm gonna turn it over to Director Grace to give us kind of a high level on it. I will say overall, the increase to the budget for my back of the envelope calculation is about 4.3%. There are areas in here where the budget was expanded, particularly in the area of programming, which I was happy to see. And so Director Grace, if you want to give us just a general overview on the mayor's budget proposal for your department. And then I think we have a bigger discussion on where we want to go from there.
Okay, cool. Just as a, general understanding of the budget, we have two. So our operating budget and then our seasonal budget. So we'll start with the operating budget. Chair Simon said, we had an increase about 4%. So $140,000 of an increase in our operating budget. Salaries obviously always go up. And so that's something that happens every year. But some of the increases, the major increases that you would see is rubbish removal. We have a few centers that, as we either have projects or increased need, we had a new contractor that we took on last year and it wasn't in our original line. And so we had to create one this year because of the waste management in residential area and residential trash removal issue. And so we had to create a line in our budget. Like it was mentioned, our programming budget went up by $59,000. And that's pretty self-explanatory. That's what we use for our programs and to fund our programs in our centers. And then stationery went up by $9,000. So stationery is gonna go a lot towards marketing and the materials that we use for that. So for this meeting, we created flyers, for example, and handed them out in the area for the rec advisory board meeting. And we'll continue to do things like that with the increase in that. And that came because we got a media content manager, and we did not have that as a position last year. And so this is kind of to support those efforts. So essentially some, funding to be able to create the flyers to get them out there. Miscellaneous.
Does that include you guys getting your own high quality printer or
No.
what's
No, but I'm still working on that. I actually think I can get one outside of the budget, which I actually want to do. I think we can work with some donations and get some folks to be able to, give us something like that. So I'm still gonna work on that. We could, if we wanted to, because that would be the line that we use.
Yeah,
So, but I'm gonna try not to, if we can avoid it. To a further point, looking at the PCTA relationship and looking at their printing programming and using funds to be able to support students that are doing that line of work. So conversation for another time, but that's what. Miscellaneous, so this is a naughty word on the budget, but like we're one of the departments that like has to have it because we have so many different things that happen in the Department of Recreation. So it's used for things like our AEDs, for example, so that are in each of our gyms, like the batteries are going out. And those get replaced every 4 years. They're very expensive. And so that would be something that you don't see in a line item every single year, but it's coming up this year, so we'll have to replace them. So those are things that will go to miscellaneous. Our food went up by $9,000. Obviously, food costs have skyrocketed, but we also support many of the city's events and the catering for it. So that happens in that 7 weeks. There must be like 30+ events that we help support that happen in the city, including recreation events that we order, food and have, cookouts, barbecues, etc. For kids and the constituents. Our maintenance and servicing, it's, some of the things that exist to maintain equipment that we have and ordering some of the equipment that we have. And the last thing that you notice is a major change to our med and chem supplies. Interesting line item. It has nothing to do with medical or chem supplies. It was a line item that was there for like chlorine and what maintains our pools and cleans our pools. We had to pay $135,000 for the new chlorine system last year. And so this is taking it out of that line and put into another budget. And so that's why you saw a difference there. Before I get into the seasonal, a lot of changes. If you have any specific questions about those, but those are the major changes.
why don't we get into seasonal now too, and then we'll put the whole conversation in play.
Seasonal is interesting because
I'm sorry, just going back to one quick question on that though, your FTE count, did it go up this year or stay the same?
it's gonna go. No, it stayed the same. We didn't add any. Okay. We're gonna be placing somebody in that we didn't have last year, but it's not really going. Okay. All right. So our seasonal budget, it's better known as like our summer budget, but we do have seasonal employees all year, temporary employees that work in the recreation centers. So that's where you see a lot of the expense for the salaries it went up $180,000. Prior to last year, we were utilizing ARPA funding to help with the seasonal budget. It was something that was being put into our seasonal budget to help with the temporary salaries. The mayor and the administration did a good job last year kind of working on that. Unfortunately, there was like an increase in taxes to get ready for that. I know that's controversial, so I won't get into it anymore, but we were a budget that was benefiting from some of that federal funding. And so we're going into our seasonal budget to help out with the temporary salary. So where you see the increase in that is to effectively compensate or replace what we were getting from that ARPA funding before. So that's where you saw the $180,000 increase from last year to this year in salaries. Private contractors is something that is an added line item. It's so that we can work with, programs and agencies or companies that are providing services, in the centers that we can't provide ourselves. So if there's a, consultant that can, come in and, teach a class or provide a service that we don't have the capacity to do. And then we took out miscellaneous from here because, we wanted to be more specific with what we want to use. A lot of our programming expense does come out of, does get used for the summer. And so we have a few line items that were put in there for that. And so we took out the miscellaneous so we can be more detailed. And that's basically over.
Can you go back through the miscellaneous item again? So that's $50,000 that's not in this year's budget, that was in the 24 budget?
No, it's so essentially,
Or it just moved?
it's moved kind of, where you're seeing it kind of go from there and some of it went to like program expense, but we just couldn't have a miscellaneous line. So it's just like a deleted line item, but the money will still allocate it in other places in the budget. It's just not going to say miscellaneous.
Got it. Okay,
Am I good, Chairman?
yes.
So in regard to the private contractors, is that like a new service or was that mostly paid through like the miscellaneous account for?
That would be like miscellaneous, like if we had to use a contractor. And so an example of like who could benefit from that and an organization that we work with would be like P3. Because they do a lot of city events for us, but it gets paid through our budget. And so instead of having it under a miscellaneous or some other, line item, private contractors for that.
And we're gonna talk a little bit about this after, but is the Eat, Play, Learn budget partially in here, the summer programming for Eat, Play, Learn, is that?
Well, it would be considered like summer jobs and the summer camps. So the programming expense that it costs us to do the summer camps and the youth jobs that we provide.
Yeah.
Because of it isn't.
The entire thing, or does it exist anywhere else in the city too? Like,
Parks has it, but we share some of that. So there are, I forget the name of the title, but they do the food program in the parks. And half of that force gets paid for by recreation. And that would be in our season.
Got it. So the whole Eat, Play, Learn PVD conference that just happened on Saturday, like pretty much all those programs get paid for, like staff wise and.
Not every single one of them.
Get paid.
Not every single one of them, not everything. Because if you go on the website, there's other like organizations that are part of Eat, Play, Learn.
Yeah.
Eat, Play, Learn is like the collaborative summer effort, but it's not like a recreation funded program full. We're part of it too. So recreation is part of Eat, Play, Learn. We don't finance all of Eat, Play, Learn. So a lot of the.
So it'd be like the school department, the
school department has some,
department,
parks, Boys and Girls Club, like a bunch of other organizations. So if you were to go on the Eat, Play, Learn site, there, like if you go to youth jobs, for example, there's a number of organizations that have jobs, and some of those will not come out of our budget.
Okay.
And like we'll be on there too, so you can look at recreation jobs, youth jobs, and you click on it, and those will be the ones that will be coming out of our budget.
So I think the thing to note, one of the things to note is that so Eat, Play, Learn and actual recreation department summer camps in the rec centers are two different things, correct?
Yeah, so think about it like this. So Eat, Play, Learn is the city's summer initiative, right? It's like the brand of summer for us. Recreation and other organizations are a part of Eat, Play, Learn. So last week or the week before, the Eat, Play, Learn event at PCTA. If you go to it, there's a number of organizations that are part of it. So there was like 20 different tables of folks that are participating in Eat, Play, Learn, and recreation is part of Eat, Play, Learn.
But like to Josh's point earlier, so there will be 60 kids enrolled in summer camp here in the rec center. So that is
in our budget.
In your budget,
Yes.
right? So
And
that's like,
that's part of the $5 a week camp, which is $35.
right, and that goes all summer long.
Yes.
Because most of the Eat, Play, Learn activities are 1 week camps.
Yeah, so depending on individual programs and companies, ours is 7 weeks for the camp specifically, but then we also have the sports camps.
Yeah.
And some of those are a week or 2 weeks, depending on what the activity is. And that's in our budget as well.
So obviously was glad to see the $50,000 increase in programming in your general budget. what are the general plans for that?
So, you know, we're being asked to expand programming, and so to do that, you need a little bit of funding to put behind that. So it's gonna be used to explore the possibility of creating additional opportunities. So the soccer league is an example, right? Unless that's on the agenda. Is that on the agenda?
No.
Okay, all right. So the soccer league is an example of that. That was not in our budget. And we found a way to get that done, but if we were to expand and do another program beyond what's in our budget right now, that would be used to do so. So like if we wanted to do like a bowling league in the fall or a flag football or something like that, that hasn't been considered in our budget, that would be used to do that. Or we could do things in collaboration with, you know, schools and provide funding for tutoring opportunities and, you know, things of that nature. So there's a lot of opportunity for the program expense, but just to expand and get something that's gonna be consistent, you know, potentially season long or year.
Any questions from anybody here? Councilwoman?
Thank you, feel grateful to the little detailed information. For me, eat to play is the key. I love it. My kids use it, I use it, and then I'm very proud for that because it's $5 for each week is nothing. So for me, in my Ward 7, I would like to know how many stations to give the food away to the people. That's what I want to know. So how many, the group, so for example, we have one in Unicanico Park, the recreation too, give it some food, so you have a more, area can provide some food in the summer?
So they'll be in a lot of parks and locations, so all water parks will have them, all pools and all recreation centers. I don't know how many specifically, for the parks that they'll be in. Because that program is run through parks. I know the locations where they are for recreation centers and the ones that are associated with it, where we have our employees that actually facilitate it. So I don't know the answer. I can get that for you, the exact number.
Because I would like to provide that, because sometimes the kids, maybe have 1 or 2 meals when they go to school, but when I go to school, maybe some people say, oh, I'm not gonna go to recreation because my kid's not part of that. So that's what I want to know, to provide that for my neighbor.
So, Director Grace, the soccer league, I think, is a good example of this. What was the total budget for the soccer league?
There wasn't.
But how much did it cost in general?
It's costing right now, between $10,000 and $15,000 right now. Every week there's a little bit, you know, cost increase, but.
So Director Grace has done a phenomenal job at fundraising for that, which is fantastic. And again, glad to see the increase in the line item for programming here. And I know that fundraising continues to be something that we look to do for the rec department for sponsorship, but. So if we were gonna start, if we wanted to push and start like another league and to continue to expand, we should expect that. Obviously depends on the sport and the materials that are needed, but.
$10,000 to $15,000 is usually.
Somewhere between there.
Yeah, for like a type of program like we did for soccer, which is one place developmental league, but imagine we did that in other locations, then you just.
Which I think should be
multiply that, yeah, so then you multiply that, so like if, let's say basketball costs like a little over $100,000 every winter. To be able to do that, and that's a combination of transportation, so it's not all program expense. But if you look at it from like an operating budget, from like everything down to like the material cost, the increase in, you know, paper towels that get used and the replacement supplies, it's just about that number. So that's what it generally looks like when you're looking at doing a citywide league like that.
And obviously, one of the glaring things that's not in here because it comes under public properties is building maintenance and you know, repairs, maintenance, general sort of remodeling, restructuring. What was in the budget for that for rec?
That goes to public property. So that's something that's in the public property budget.
But do we write a list of all the sort of things, like the bucket list of things that need to get done in the centers, and then it's kind of addressed in that pot, or how do we?
We do that on a, like that's. So there are things that where that's happening, but that's happening like not through like, I would assume, I don't know what their exact line item is. It's not like like their maintenance. If we have things like that, like huge fixes and things that we know that are coming up, that's like CIP and.
The CIP.
Yeah, and so so like, for example, what I said to Josh was like, oh, we're gonna have to order some stuff for you and kind of fix some things. That's gonna come out of CIP. When we have a known like ask and it's something that's not like general maintenance is not gonna fix, that would come out of a different bucket. But for general maintenance of, like if this window broke and we need to fix it like right away, or a light broke, that comes out of public property budget.
And I should know this, but I don't, but public property does not break down their budget by category, right? So they don't have like a recreation line item in there.
They might now, I haven't looked at theirs for that, but we were all asked to do that for this year's budget. So we got a new system where we're going and creating line items. That's where you saw like in my budget where that miscellaneous disappeared because we had to identify like these specific areas. So it wasn't like a loss of money, it was a loss of a line item. Kind of, and so we had to break down like what that expense was going to be to the best of our ability. And it's the first time everyone like kind of had to do that this year, so I imagine it'll be like a lot better at it next year.
Can you didn't answer that, do you?
I'm looking. to
Oh, all right.
see.
All right. So she's-
I'm curious.
Director, I have a question. In terms of seasonal staffing, is that number staying the same then?
So the money is very similar. How we use that comes down to management a lot of times. So if you. I think if you guys remember, like a few meetings ago, we talked about like our seasons and what our busy seasons are and our seasons that aren't as busy in the rec center. So after summer, when kids go back to school, we see a little lull in like, activity because it's like a huge back to school session. If we were to increase our programming during that time, it would significantly impact that budget because we're not like set up for that yet. But I think with like what we're trying to do, you saw the increase in programming. I think like, for next year's budget and looking at that, if we have, more programming, then we can essentially advocate for more temp staff and funding to be able to support the programming. So the answer to your question is, it's relatively the same, but it's going to depend on the amount of programming that we have, how close we are to staying within that budget line. So where Josh mentioned, depending on the age of the child that's here, we're generally looking at a 1:15 ratio, depending on the amount of kids that are in a center. And so we try to adjust our budget and our staffing according so we can stay within our budget. So if there's, 30 kids here, you'll probably see a staff of 3. Or a staff of 1 temporary person, if there's a director and assistant director and 1 other staff. But if we have an event and we increase the program and that number goes up to like 50 here, we got to have the room to be able to, compensate for that in our temporary staff. So that's kind of how we look at it.
Yeah, because I think that's what I was realizing right now. I wasn't super aware that it seems like in the direct rec centers outside of the director and deputy director, every other staff member is paid through the seasonal.
Yes. Yeah.
And so, yeah, well, I was gonna put it out there, and I think it's important that we boost that number, like, it's minimal this year's.
So that's actually something that like I would talk about, because it not only gives us the opportunity for like what happens here, but if you're looking at youth employment and opportunities in general, we have a pretty good way to provide opportunity for job training, supporting, some other youth jobs through our temporary budget. So that would be cool to be able to provide that opportunity as well. So the example I gave you earlier was like PCTA, right? As a vocation, their graphic design and printing vocation, it would be cool if they were working to be able to assist other city departments within our own budget, because they have the facilities and mechanism to do it, but pay them through our budget to be able to work and, after hours to be able to do something like that. So that's where I see like the expansion of that, not just for programming in our centers, but across the city. So that would be a cool idea if we could do that eventually.
So that's actually a really interesting thing. So for like the soccer league, for example, anybody that we have to pay for the soccer league would come out of the seasonal budget, right?
Yeah.
So any expansion of programming really would come under.
Yes.
That.
Yeah, it's kind of like a chicken and egg thing, right? So like, you know, if we, like, what came first, the people or the program?
Yeah,
And so, but if we, if we start doing more programming, we're gonna need the people. You know,
Yeah.
so it's tough to say, give me all these people and I have the programming, so I'm focusing on that first. And then as we expand, and then you can take a look at it and have the numbers to back it up.
okay. Well, this is now before the city council. And you're hearing your finance committee review of your budget item is going to be on
Thursday.
this Thursday.
Thursday.
So I would invite any member of the board who wants to attend that. I'm gonna attend that. What time is that?
I think
5:30.
that's- Is it 5:30? I was gonna say
Yeah.
6:30.
Um,
Park
Well-
is on tomorrow night.
Parks
Anyone
tomorrow. Okay.
wanted that.
So, you know, I mean, I think overall, I was glad to see an increase in some of the budget items here. I wish there was more in a lot of cases, like, you know, we always advocating for recreation, we want to see more. I will look into the public property, budget as well and see if tomorrow I'll take a look at that and see. If that's broken down by line item, if there's a recreation line.
Yeah, not on here. I can
No.
reach out to the department and see if they have anything broken down. It just seems like it's capital improvements and.
In general,
in
yeah,
general.
it's probably, yeah. Okay. Okay, well, again, interested to see what the council talks about and, any other questions for Director Grace on budget? I do also want to take a minute to recognize Representative Sanchez, who joined us tonight. Representative, say your comment.
I just wanted to give you support, because I know you're doing fantastic work.
Get the brother combination here tonight. Okay, any other questions on budget before we move on to Eat, Play, Learn, just for final? All right, and we talked about Eat, Play, Learn, I
Yeah.
think, for a little bit already. The mayor had the kickoff of Eat, Play, Learn and the registration that happened last Saturday. Director Grace, maybe just a brief update on the amount of kids who have signed up so far, or I'm not sure if you have those numbers yet, or kind of
It
what's.
opened on April 27th, camps opened up and sport camps opened up at 10 a.m. We were 90% filled at 10:04
Oh, my goodness.
So it's actually like a problem that we have to look into a little bit more.
I'm sorry, repeat that again, just so we
Yeah.
can get clarity on that.
10 a.m. registration opened, 10:04 a.m. We were 90% filled.
So clearly oversubscribed, right?
Where now we have to, and so this is the scenario where it's like we have directors. So for me to give an exact answer of like how many campers yet, I couldn't give the exact answer, but that's because directors are trying to go out of their way to create more spots and see if they can be able to do it with the number of staff that we have. And so it's, you know, it's a difficult situation because you hate to say no. And it's a really good opportunity for, you know, all the children in the city, but we only have so many slots. So yeah, and so we're filled 100% now. Now we're going through registration.
And that's for both the kind of the 1 week camps and also the campsite, is the camp signups for the rec centers throughout the summer, that's part of that same registration process, right?
Yeah.
So Kennedy, for example, all booked.
Yeah. All booked.
Same day.
5 minutes.
Yeah, it's not even, look, we actually have to look at it now and see if like we can, like, I heard like maybe like a lottery process, because there are some issues with the process, because when we create online registration and as well as in-person registration, there's no way of like preventing every online person from registering, right? And so we do a good job. We try to like reserve some of them and we can do that, but it's also like very difficult. So it's a interesting situation. And then on the job side, we had over 900 youth apply.
Wow. And how many spots do we have to fill?
About well, then that I gotta see what I can do in the budget, but like
It's like in the
usually
thousands,
between,
right?
no, like for us, it'll be between like 390 and 400.
Oh, okay.
So,
Now, you know, we had talked about this in the past, but I would really encourage you to kind of think about this a little bit more too, because I do know that there are parents that go out there and sign their kid up for every camp and just to hold the spot. But if like a child doesn't show up after 2 days or whatever it is there a mechanism where that child like loses their spot for, and we were able to replace it with somebody that's on the waiting list is actually going to use it? Or how do we prevent people from like just holding multiple spots in different areas and then not showing up? Is that an issue that we normally have? Is it a?
It's not like it's not, so. A scenario that would happen is, child wants to participate in summer camp and a sport camp. And so I'm really interested in volleyball, but what do I do for the other 6 or 5 weeks, right? So they will sign up for a camp, for a summer camp as well. And so I really don't have the best answer to be like, no, you can't do that. If you're paying for both.
I don't think that's the case. I'm
Yeah.
more thinking like they just don't show up at all. Like,
Yeah, so, there is
like,
nothing.
that's a spot that
Yeah,
people on the waiting list.
yeah,
So in our situation, we'll have. Somebody would sign up, but I'll keep an eye on who we take attendance and who comes in.
Yeah.
Some people tell me in advance we're going on vacation, so we'll only be here this
Right.
this week, we won't be here. So out of the 7 weeks, sometimes we do have families that go on vacation
Sure,
in
of
this
course.
particular area. Out of the 7 weeks, maybe they'll be there 4 weeks out of the 7.
Yeah.
Like you said, the 1 week they do the sports camp, the other week they're on vacation, the rest of the weeks they're here.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard to really say that, to cut them off,
Yeah.
because they are coming back.
Yeah, those aren't, I'm talking more.
We're talking about the
people
no
that just
call,
don't
no
show
show.
up at
Yeah.
all. Is there
Not a lot of them.
Yeah.
Not a lot of them. That's good to know.
There's not a lot, but like last year, what happened was when we had that like significant amount of rain.
Yeah.
Like some kids just like weren't coming to camp in the rain, it was a lot. And so we saw like a dip in attendance, and that's why I want to kind of wait for this year, if we have a better weather summer, and kind of see, what happens in the first couple weeks. But you're really talking about like the no call, no show. Like I signed up and it's the first day, 2 week, no answer, something like that. What do we do with that particular spot when we know that we have a waiting list that's, very.
Do you have a question?
Yeah, along those lines, like, let's say, money, staff programming was an issue, like, how long is the waiting list? Like, what do you think the potential max need is there out in the community?
If we opened up a slot, it would be fillable.
I know, but like how many kids do we have in it?
Like between, let's see. I'd say between like 1,000, like just under 1,000 or over 1,000, depending on like the way it shakes out. Because some, like, there's 65 here,
Yeah,
and then at West End, there'll be like 9.
sure. So like the question is like ultimately, like do you think like 2,000 kids would sign up if like it was open? Like, do you have like an idea of like how much need there is in the community that's just not being met?
Yeah, it's significant. Yeah, it's significant, yeah, like, if we had, so if Josh could go to 70, you're at 65, right? If you go to 120, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it will be filled.
Is there a formula like per child, like for every 10 kids, you need 1 staffer, or how do we calculate?
1 to 15, American Camping Association.
1 to 15.
Yeah, there's actually legislation, I think, at the State House right now for like new camp rules, things of that nature. I don't think they're gonna change that though.
So part of the limitation is on the physical capacity of the centers. To
Yes.
be able to accept
Mhm.
more, and so a solution would be you'd need extra centers,
Yes.
right, over the summer to be able to accommodate it. And then you'd need the programming and the staffing as well.
Correct.
So it's like the centers that.
Temporary rec centers in the summer, I think Jen's on something.
I don't know, I'm just, it's unfortunate, right, that there's
Yeah.
such a big need, and the biggest limitation is the physical space.
No, but I look at like a Mount Pleasant High School, which has 4 huge fields around it, and you could open up the gym and the cafeteria and the indoor space and utilize. It goes back to our conversation we had so
Yeah,
many
it can
times.
be done.
Yes,
It's that,
I said it can be done.
Yeah.
yeah, I know, exactly.
yeah,
But no, it goes back to what we talked about before, about just utilizing the spaces better, and obviously it takes resources to do it, but. Councilwoman?
When I went to the event for the PCTA, so what I saw is so many company providers different camps. Not only the recreations, we mentioned he had the partnership to work together. So sometimes a parent interested for that and sign it for us too, so both. And then he decided because some program is 1 week, 2 week. And then he don't want to lose it, the $5, because sometimes the summer camp is more expensive in another place. And then so I know I use it, I love it, and I recommend it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, the price point makes it affordable, right? And I mean, it goes from 8:30 a.m. to 5, so, it's accommodating for parents. Yeah, there's a lot of them, and it's just like a lot. And we do this every year, so looking at it, I actually, that's the first time it's really been brought to my table where it's like, hey, can we do a camp in another location? So that'd be something that we'd have to think about. I don't have the immediate answer.
well, I think in the future is something we do need to think about, and I think obviously this is our first budget that we're looking at as a board. It's in the council's hands right now, but I do think, part of our role is to advocate for more resources, so we have a chance to do that right now. I think, in the next budget cycle, we should certainly do that with the mayor's office, I think more, Councilwoman.
Probably, as I said, we had a recreation to do that, but the school, some school is empty space, they have, the gym, they have more
Yeah,
space.
I know.
So we have demand for that, so I think we can use that, space for the school.
I agree. Anybody else, anything on Eat, Play, Learn or summer programming? So we'll get an update later on in the summer or, on numbers and whatnot. I think we can use that kind of as a baseline. I think what we'd want to know, to what Jen's point was earlier is how many people signed up, how many are on a waiting list, so that maybe that's a good baseline for us to tell what we need to advocate for maybe next year and see what more resources we need to push towards.
Yeah, I think those numbers are due from directors. What do I say? 13? Yeah, 13. So finalizing that so they get in their final rosters, then it helps us do, their hours, and so we'll have a better understanding of what the numbers actually look like, and then can look and pull the report from like the waiting list, and we can see how many applied, etc. So
Good. Councilwoman?
I know that Eat to Play is only for the children, also for the food, they give it away to the people, but sometimes the mother have 5 kids and bring it over there. For me, I would like to see any program or any type of program case giving some food to the parent. Because sometimes I have 5 children, okay, everybody eat, because they have the rule, so where's the parent can bring it over there and then not have anything to eat. That's what I say.
Yeah.
It's only, oh, no, it's not for you, it's only for the kids, be like rule like this, and, sometimes parents is give a little sandwich, a little snack.
Yeah.
Not could be cool because it's only for one person, one child. So, for example, I see my friend, she have 5 kids, and one there, give her the food for the kids, and then you don't have nothing. And sometimes people don't have money to cook them. That's why using that, a solution. That's the only question.
yeah, I mean, to clarify that, that is the answer that like unfortunately that they have to give. So even our meals program here, it's a program run through RIDE, so the Rhode Island Department of Education.
Yeah.
It's for, K through 12, so it's for children. And as part of that program, it's actually like a question that they ask you in the paperwork, and making sure that the meals are for kids. And then that program extends into the summer. So we don't have like an adult meals program right now that we can afford. We get reimbursed obviously for the meals.
For the kids,
Yeah, so as everything does, it would come down to a funding discussion. Do we have the capacity and funding to be able to provide something like that?
All right, well, all things that we will continue to monitor. Does anybody else have any questions for Director Grace on Eat, Play, Learn, or Summit? All right, well, at this time, we'll do what we always do at the end of our meetings and open it up to any public comment. Representative Sanchez, Councilwoman Peterson, before we get into public comment, if you guys have anything that you'd like to add or talk about?
I'll just say a quick thank you for doing it over on this side. Really proud of the work that's being done over at Kennedy. Josh is a wonderful rec director and, the work that he does and just getting to know the family, the kids and what they need is super important. I'm really impressed to see, and I'm looking forward to seeing what collaboration we've done between rec and senior services. I think that's a huge opportunity. And while we don't have any high rises or towers in the gym, we do have some senior living a little bit down the way that I think would benefit greatly from it. So looking forward to seeing all of that. And my friend Malachi.
That's my son.
Oh,
Couldn't tell.
He's a proud Ward 14 resident and he also sees a lot of what happens here in the rec. I mean, they're
Yeah.
really good advocates for what needs to get done and what we could see that could improve. And just all the wonderful things that are happening. So
Malachi, come and tell us about the rec center. Have a seat. Here, right there. This is good. That's a good public speaking opportunity for you.
It's fun, cause there's like different recs, you have different stuff to do, especially like basketball. So for me, like I like playing basketball a lot. So like having like a gym in every spot and like especially like the leagues and stuff like that, it's really fun. And like I like it a lot.
you were just telling me about what cool things we could do for the summer.
For the summertime, like I would like to go like on like a trips, like more trips and like, yeah,
What kind of trips?
like it doesn't have to be like a lot, like zoos or like a sky zone or something like fun, like the kids would like or something. Yeah,
All right.
Beach trips.
yeah, beach trips, yeah, that's nice, yeah. That was fun.
So, when you think about rec centers in general, obviously you're a big basketball guy, right? What else would you want to see happening in the rec center besides basketball?
Like I remember like a couple years ago, I don't know if you guys still do like dodgeball. Like,
That was a very popular.
yeah.
That's a very popular league. So that's actually on like the other expansion of programming, because it was very popular.
Yeah, like that a lot,
Yeah.
dodgeball, yeah.
That was only one,
Yeah,
that was when it was every rec against each other.
yeah.
Same
Oh, yeah?
with basketball.
Yeah.
That was fun, yeah.
That can get dangerous.
Yeah, I would like to see that back up again,
All right.
yeah.
Well, thanks for all you do in the rec center.
Yeah,
I know you hear a lot.
Thank you.
This summer will be his first time working.
All right.
Well, we've had it,
Any other public comment? Would you like to say anything? I only know you as Liam's mom. We don't know your first name.
My son goes, my youngest goes here, Kennedy, and he does do the rec and basketball. My name's Julie. I do live in the community in the area. I was just wondering, like, with the Eat, Play, Learn, with that, because as a parent trying to log on and trying to register for that does get very frustrating. But like the one specific, the sailing camp, there's only like 5 spots.
Yeah.
And that sailing camp, isn't that all summer? And why is that like, that we only get like 5 spots for the summer?
Can I answer?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So I think the organization that does that is Community Voting. I think that's what it's called.
Community Vote Works.
And that's the amount of slots that they provide to us as part of their program. And so that's how we can do it at that price. I actually met with him last year to talk about, that expansion. It would have to be like outside of the summer, because that's like their busiest season too. And so they get a number of kids that sign up for that. That's one of the reasons it's only 5 from us, because that's
They don't.
I didn't want to say it, okay.
No, I know.
Councilwoman?
I don't know if it's in my mind, but I would like to see if the city can have a, camping, 1 week camping, so the kids can explore, and you know, the nature.
Well, we have a really great spot in there.
Oh, I was,
We're getting
I
there.
was gonna get to that. Somewhere.
And also, what I like it when it closes the Eat to Play, it go to the Royal William Park and we have the cookout.
Yeah,
It was awesome, like,
that's
we
great.
really love, I love it because I take my brain and go there and we have a lot of fun. So, yeah.
All right, well, anybody else have any other comments, questions, or suggestions before we adjourn? You look like we have something to
I
say.
got Zoom's on like 2 minutes.
Yeah, Representative Sanchez, please do.
I want to thank, Director Briggs and all of you, right, for, hosting these meetings, because they're very important. At my time in office, I just noticed and learned, right, that a lot of, rec centers, a lot of programs are out here, available, but something not as accessible. And things like the soccer program provide opportunities for our young people. Who sometimes don't have things to do. They get caught up with stuff, you know, catch up, you know, whether it's positive or negative thing, you know, we just need to create opportunities and programs for youth needs to keep going. Because, kids get bored and they want things to do. And we keep our young people, preoccupied. I don't want to say out of trouble because that's a stereotype, right? But I want us to make sure that we keep our young people occupied with things to do. That's why I want to thank you guys, and you're doing a lot of transformations within the record. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Representative, we appreciate that. We got a great team, I think. Unless anybody has any other comments, questions, suggestions, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Second by Councilman Vargas, all in favor?
Bye.
That is the end of our Recreation Advisory Board meeting. Thank you, everybody.